Hi, it's Jeremy here. I want to talk to you today about my journey in Buddhism and what it's meant to me. I remember years ago, particularly in 1992, when I actually saw the temple being built, and I remembered it was like a forbidden city that, wow, geez, this has actually come here. And I remember I was just a kid looking at the back of the car whenever my family was travelling to Sydney or to Wollongong. And I particularly remembered that after it was built, I'd never even been in there. I never even tried to be in there, to be honest. Then, when I was 19 years old, I was working in Sydney at the time, and I was working for a promotions company. And I particularly remembered when people like Richard Gere was actually working with the Tibetan causes and also on the AIDS Foundation. And that had actually made me feel like, wow, that's something to aspire to. Before then, I was already working in hotels and insurance company, and I felt that this was something that was not of a calling. I wouldn't call it that, because that's only in Christianity. You'd call that to a priest who had been called to God. But I just remember it just spoke to me, so I bought the book Transformation of the Mind, and I've still got that book at home. And also there was another book called The Tibetan Book of the Dead. Now, that was a really good aspiration to actually just be reading that through, and I actually had a really good look through how it actually looked, and it was so beautiful looking through this book and the different levels of how rebirth actually happens. That's what the book is actually about. Then after that, I was just still working in Sydney, different campaigns for promotions and everything, and after that I had gone into a misdiagnosis with something. I've handed out the news article that I was in. After that, for quite some time, I was actually agoraphobic at home. I couldn't do anything. And I got straight into academics. And after quite some time, I figured that I did need some help, because living like that is not normal. So I'd called a person from a rehabilitation clinic. It used to be in Fernhill, which was a part of Corrimal, but now it's and now it's at Port Combe Mental Health Rehab. And I particularly remember the time I was talking to him like about how I used to do all this stuff, and he goes, well, you're still that same person, Jeremy. You just lost your way, and the people I was hanging around with wasn't too good either, because being socially naive at the time too, we've all been that way. We've all been young, wanting to be a part of a crowd, peer pressures and different things, people wanting to move on. And that's what it really was. And after that, what I had actually done is I had actually gone into rehabilitation with him, and I particularly remembered going around the block and everything else. And after quite some time, I'd actually gone into full rehabilitation. After that, I sought help from a clinical psychologist who pinpointed that I actually had self-approval problems from childhood, like lack of caregiving, everything else. And she helped me find my own self, which I always thought that was a part of my Buddhist nature, was to say, well, I've got a problem here, I really wanted to sort it out. And I was sick of it, I was really sick of it. Trying to gain approval from people is exhausting. So it's like you're a vampire wanting to lust for everything all the time. And I particularly remembered when I sought treatment. After treatment, I'd actually started for the first time going into Nantian Temple for some reason. And I saw it as a bit of a quiet environment. And I had my cousin take me at the time too. And I particularly remembered walking past everything and having a look at all this stuff, and I remembered I bumped into Reverend Jejane at the time. Reverend Jejane was amazing with me. She could see that I was vulnerable at the time, so I sat down and she spoke to me. talking about family stuff, traumatic events and everything, and she said to me, doesn't matter about this, doesn't matter about that, it's you in the end who will be causing this damage in your life. So I took note of that, and I could see where she was coming from, that people often walk through life to say, well, it's because of this, because of that. It's like, well, no, it's actually you. It doesn't care about your child. It doesn't matter about anything. You can't go playing the blame game. So after that, I took her advice, and I took off to Queensland for about a month, Byron Bay, then to Queensland. Just found myself, because after treatment you've got to get to know people, everything else, and know people's boundaries and what you're all about too, and to learn your own self and your own confidence. And I particularly remembered, after that, I came back home and everything just seemed different. So I took off back up to Queensland for 1 year. I went there, and just walking, I remembered for the first time I didn't need a whole crowd of people around me. I didn't need that. And for me, that just felt like it was the best thing in the world, not to need so much attention from everybody. And after quite some time, I had gone up there. I just went bushwalking a lot, and I remembered just everything. And I remembered I could just be on my own, but be able to socialise. I wasn't having the need to socialise all the time either. And that was the best thing, and to trust in my own judgment, which is a part of my Buddhist nature as well, which I found quite remarkable, is how to rely on oneself and think for oneself. And I remembered just going and doing everything on my own and not having the need to call people up for any assistance or help, because you're the only one in the end who can help yourself. And I guess that's a part of my Buddhist nature as well, was that I respond to Buddhism a lot. After that, I actually came back. I was working at the Siebel Hotel, but I found there was quite a dead end there. Dead end job, because I just had to get used to social again, everything else, being in a new workplace again. So after that, what I had done is I had gone to Nantian Temple. And after quite some time, I just wanted to help again. And I found it really, really amazing, the styles that Reverend Chun had showed me, encouraging me and believing in me too. And not only that, was to gain confidence with different duties, different new responsibilities. Oh, Jeremy can do this, and that's the way it's actually uplifted me in a lot of things and made me feel like I was an adult there too. And I guess through my own self-reflections, I see myself in that own way. So that's how Nantian has actually helped me, to actually just see myself again, which has just been brilliant. And that's the thing I love about it there, and also the discipline to say, well, just because you do this, you have to do this as well. So it's part and parcel with how to control the ego as well. And that's what I find quite remarkable there, is to be a part of a great team. So that is my journey so far, but also it showed me a journey of what I really loved and had a passion for, was current affair events and different other things in photography. So now I'm actually doing a certificate 4 in screen and media, which I think Nantian has actually showed me to that path for things what I love to do. Anyways, omitofo, and thank you.